There's a difference between liking the idea of homesteading and living a life where animals depend on you every single day. Today's guest is Janelle Anderson of Haven Homestead. Janelle comes from North Dakota ranching roots and has lived both sides of animal stewardship, beef cattle and dairy cows. And those are not the same job. In this conversation, Janelle and I slow down and talk about what changes when you move from raising cattle to caring for dairy animals, why feeding animals well is a daily act of responsibility and not just convenience, how working with milk and cheese connects you to older rhythms of food and preservation, what livestock teaches you about discipline, consistency, and humility, and how answering the call to farms isn't a one-time decision. It's something you recommit to season after season. This episode is about showing up, doing the work, and learning from the animals in your care. And if you've ever wondered what this life actually asks of you beyond the highlight reel, this conversation is for you. So settle in because there's a lot of quiet wisdom in here. All right. Hey, Janelle.
Hey, Sophie.
So good to finally have you on our Call to Farms podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I am really good. It was such a beautiful day today here in Tennessee.
Well, Janelle, we've been friends for several years now. So I want to make sure that for those listeners out there who don't yet know who you are, we always like to kick off to ask our guests the question, how did you come about to answer the call to farms?
I love this question. I grew up in agriculture, but we lived rural. And so we hunted, we fished for a lot of our food, and our parents raised different livestock and different animals. And agriculture was just not something that was off the table for our family. But then I really got into it when I married my husband, Ben. He is a rancher from Western North Dakota who lived on 100+ year generational ranch. And it was such a beautiful thing that I stepped into. And so I'd say specifically that definitely was the answer to call to farm. But we definitely expanded once we sold everything there and moved to Middle Tennessee. And that's where we really got into growing our own vegetables and all that kind of stuff, more than just livestock.
That's exciting. And when did you move down to Middle Tennessee and how did you decide on Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So we moved down here the mid-September of 2022. And when we were deciding where we were going to go, I've always come to Nashville, to Tennessee. I always thought it was beautiful. My mom's a singer. And so I grew up coming down here and I loved it. I don't love Nashville like I used to. Which younger. It's changed a bit since then. But I told my husband that I think that he would really like Tennessee, that we should go look at it. It was the only place that we looked at land. And I think God was like, yep, this is it. But when we first bought our place, it was raw land and we didn't think that we were moving here in any capacity. Our thought process was we were just investing in some land, and land in Tennessee is a good investment.
Yeah, that's right. I love your story. Now, I haven't been able to come out to visit your particular property. I've been to your area, but you have shared a lot about how you've built up. And so I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's been wild because, like I said, we started on raw land and there was no water here. There was no power. I mean, there was nothing. Most of our land is flat and usable. And so when we first pulled down the hill into what they call, this is like the hole they call it, but it's just like a wide open pasture with some trees on the sides and stuff like that. So when we moved here, there was nothing. And we had started the build through email. You actually came out here April of 2022 and put flags in the ground. And then I worked with all the general contractors through telephone and email. And so when we came here, there was a shell of a house that was here. And we had power at that point to an H frame, but we didn't have a well dug, which honestly, that's a really bad decision. It worked out very well for us. It could have gone south really bad. Anyway, it was quite the process to get the house livable. And that was our first goal, was to get our family comfortable and then also digging a well. And we did that. But in the meantime, the Buffalo River is right across our property. And we used to bathe in the Buffalo River before we had water here. So I always love to tell that because it's like such a cool part of our story. And we were not sad about it. It was beautiful.
I remember you sharing that part of your story. It was so vivid. And I thought that is such a huge blessing to be able to do that and have access to all that water. And I've seen some of the clips that you've shared on Instagram, and it's so beautiful, your property.
It truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you're preparing to move again?
I know. Isn't that wild? God is so wild what he does. We moved with open hands, just thinking that this was probably going to be our forever place, but always just willing to be obedient to what God is saying and asking of us. And when he asked us to put up our house for sale last fall, we were like, okay, all right, here we go. And so my husband actually was working off the farm and he came home and we finished some inside projects that needed to be finished and we listed it for sale. So it was quite slow, I will say, through late fall and into winter, which I think is fairly normal in real
Yeah.
estate. But now we've already had a showing this spring. So I feel like it's probably not going to take too much longer, but it's wild. Yeah.
It's a beautiful time. And Tim always says that the buyer activity picks up right after the Super Bowl. Time and time again. In fact, we had our home listed a couple months ago and it just sat because one of interest rates and all
Mm,
the things going on. And I think for homestead properties, you just have to have the right buyer who can appreciate
yeah.
all the different things. But yeah, all of a sudden, in a week's time, we had 5 showings and 2 offers, and it was a multiple bidding war. And I'm like, what happened? So yeah, we'll be praying that it picks
Thank
up for
you.
you. You're in Middle Tennessee, so it's a beautiful place to be right around Nashville. We dream about that too. Like, should we move closer to Nashville?
Yeah.
There's so many more things to do out there than out.
Yeah. It's cool that this area is really rural where we are at, but within 45 minutes to an hour, you can get to big
Yeah.
cities and you can do anything that you want to do. And I love that because you can go do what you need to do. But I also love that it is just so quiet and it's so peaceful. And our neighbors are not that close. And not that we don't love neighbors, trust me,
Yeah,
but it was really nice to not have them like right there.
that's right. So are you headed back up to the northern Great Plains
Yeah,
area?
no, we're staying Midwest and we've told people when they've asked us, so we're good with this. We really feel like God is calling us to Wisconsin, which is where I grew up, which I said I would never move back. And I was so grateful that I had so many opportunities to not live there. But I have 2 siblings that live there with their families, and I really feel like God is calling us closer to family. I think that's strategic for specific reasons. And we're just really excited about that. And we just love adventure. I think God has given us a heart for adventure. We're not scared to do anything.
And it's also a calling too, right? You
Mm,
have to feel, you have to be called to. Otherwise, where does the courage and where does the bravery come from? It's for a much greater purpose than what we want. The timing's always perfect. So we're excited. I know we're going to stay in touch, and we're both headed up to the North Dakota area this spring in
yeah, in May.
May. That's right.
Hmm.
We're going to be both at the Prairie Roots Homesteading Summit in North Dakota, and that will be really fun. So, you have experience as a cattle rancher, and
Yes.
dairy is a bit different. What surprised you most when you stepped into dairy cows?
So when I lived in Wisconsin, I worked on a dairy for a little bit, and we used to get raw milk from the bulk tank at our local neighbors. So we've always been around dairy, but to have one that was our own was definitely different. And you are correct. They are different than beef. And what really, I shouldn't say it surprised me because I knew it, but really understanding how to feed them was like in our faces really quickly to make sure that they stayed in condition. And modern dairy cows are just something to behold with their production that they've been bred towards, and keeping them fed well was first and foremost. We need to make sure that we get this right. But I married a guy who's really into livestock nutrition. He has his college book from that still. It just fell apart the other day. So we got to tape this up. I'm like, we'll do that. Don't worry. And so that was really helpful. And we also lived in Western North Dakota when I brought my first family milk cow home. And it's the breadbasket of America. They grow so many different things so that we were able to feed her really well. And she looked amazing.
And how many dairy cows do you have now?
So we have 2 full jerseys here in Tennessee. And then we have a full jersey that will calve in the fall. And then we have a quarter Hereford, 3/4 jersey that will calve in the next month or so.
Okay.
And then I have a couple of red poles. They're a dual purpose breed. Historically, they've headed a lot more towards beef, but you can
Beef.
find ones with some really nice udders. And so I have 2 now full red pole cows that I am hoping that I can milk.
Okay, I'm excited to see those videos.
I know. I'm really excited for the heifer. The cow, she's already 3, and while she's really gentle and docile, which is a plus about that breed, I'm not sure that she's really gonna, like,
Let
be
you.
down for us
Yeah.
to milk. But I could be wrong. Ben is an animal whisperer. I just sit back and I'm, like, in awe of all the things that he does, so I'll just let him take the lead on it.
So, what actually goes into keeping dairy cows healthy and productive that most people underestimate?
The biggest thing that I run into, because we do mentor a lot of people with dairy cows, specifically with nutrition, is that because they are modern dairy cows, they're just not going to be thrown on grass and be expected to keep condition and producing nutritious milk. And so, one of the hardest conversations that I've had to have within our community, the homesteading community and small farms, is you are either going to have to get incredibly creative with your feed options if you don't want to feed grain, and you better find some really good hay. The South is not so fantastic at good quality hay. And those are the things that we run into the most is just that they have to have such specific nutrition. Now, if you get a cow that is lower production, you don't run into that as much. But when you get above 3 gallons, even maybe closer to 4, it's a whole nother ballgame with their nutrition.
Yeah, we talk a lot about making sure cows are fed well. Can you explain why feed quality matters so much and not just for the cow, but for the milk as well?
Yeah, everything that you're putting into your cow is going to come out in one way or another, and whether it's in the fertilizer or it's in milk, and we want the most nutritious things. And so first and foremost, we always go back to soil, and you guys are huge on that as well. Living soil is going to give them things to consume that is living and is full of minerals and everything that they need. But a lot of us don't have pastures like that. And we're starting on things that have maybe been not treated very well. So if we don't bring in the correct nutrition for them, the quality of what we're consuming suffers. And that's never a goal, right? We want really healthy milk. I think sometimes people focus too much on the cleaning of the cow and making sure that everything's sterile and all that stuff. And they forget that it actually is what is in their feed bucket matters immensely more than that.
Right. So, what do you have in your feed bucket for the cows?
Yeah, so we are not against grain over here. Our girls are higher producers. They're 5.5, 6 gallon girls
Oh,
at their
wow.
peak. Yeah. And they came off of a dairy. We have some non-GMO grains that we are feeding them a dairy ration. It's about a 60% ration. And at different times, we are having to put in some cracked corn so that they can get more carbs, more energy. Then there are other times where we have to rely on bringing in some beet pulp even to keep their condition up. We're feeding from a different system and trying to use what is local. And it's not like we're able to feed corn silage. I mean,
Yeah.
that and a TMR, we're just completely different than what a modern dairy is able to feed. And so we're trying to do what we can locally.
Yeah, that's great. What would your advice be for someone dreaming of a family milk cow? Or what is the biggest mistake that beginners tend to make?
It's hard for me to say this because I was this person who jumped into a family milk cow group on Facebook and learned. I think what probably saved me was 2 things. The girl I bought the milk cow was my childhood best friend, the first one that I bought, and she was my mentor. And so I could always bounce stuff off of her. But the second thing is we had a really good foundation of cattle. And I do believe that discernment is a gift that God has given us. And so I could wade through stuff. I could tell when things were like wonky with advice, but I have left 99% of all of those groups because the information that is coming up in the comments is number one, confusing to people. And if you have no basis, no foundation that you're trying to sift through all of these different advice in this comments, it's really easy for you to do something that is going to be detrimental to your cow.
Yeah.
And so I would say stay out of your Facebook groups and find mentors that are going to pour into you local and online. Don't forget the local people.
Mhm.
I always say that your best advantage is to go to the local farmer. You're not going to agree with everything that they do and their practices, but man, if they've had cows for long enough, you know that when you're in an emergency and you've made that relationship with them, they're going to come bail your butt out.
Yep,
So
exactly. So stay out of Facebook groups and go find a local mentor.
Exactly. That's what we did when we were here for the first year, and it was just me and the girls, and Tim was still behind in California, just wrapping up the farm that we had out there. I pulled over, and this is not something that I would recommend you do out here in the mountains in East Tennessee, but I just pulled over And I saw this farm that had the rotational fence lines. And I said, oh, I've got to meet this person. And that ended up being my mentor, Maggie. We just hit it off right away. And we started helping her milk 1 day a week, and then 2 days a week, and three. And we went up to 5 days a week. And we've learned so much. And
Mhm.
for us, we are more of the hands on type. So we just love to ask all the questions and just learn.
Yeah.
And with dairy cow, you do need to feel. You need to feel when you're milking how it feels like when the cow's completely out of
Mhm.
milk. Otherwise, you have a potential chance of mastitis.
So hands-on experiences is really important. I love that you did that. I knew about Maggie. I've watched the stories. I've listened to the posts and all the things that you've shared about her, but I didn't realize that you guys milked at her farm also in the beginning.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it's beautiful. And she was part of Weston A. Price and fed her grandson raw milk from before it was kosher. And I guess it's
Yeah.
not really kosher anyway, but
Oh, gosh, no.
yeah, she had the formulas and everything. So it was just, it's really cool to see the locals here are the ones that this is their life. They've lived here
Mhm.
and there's so much that we could learn from them.
Mhm.
Okay. So enough about dairy. You also have all this wealth of knowledge about beef cattle and ranching. So I want to learn more about that. We have our dairies, our two Jersey cows, and then we also have a mix of Hereford. We also have a mix of Dexter. We have Belfairs. So, what is your recommendation for people who are just starting and maybe they're not ready for dairy yet, but they think that they can handle at least one beef cow?
Yeah, I always tell people, especially if you have no prior cattle experience, is to get a steer. Actually, get two, and I'll explain why. But steers don't require you to breed them. It doesn't require you to calve them out. All of the stuff that will come later on. But what you get to figure out is how to feed them. You get to figure out how to run them through your pastures on rotationally grazing. And it's such a beautiful process, but they're a lot more hardy and don't require as much as like a dairy cow or even just a beef cow. And so I always tell people to start with steers. Why I say two is because I do believe that there is something to that. You don't always need a second cow, but I've been around cattle long enough to know that they really do better within a situation where there is a second bovine that is there. I'm not saying that you can't find another livestock animal, but for the best part for them, it is always to have another bovine. And they're competitive eaters. And so when you have one steer that is eating, they're going to spur on that other one to eat as well. And so they will be able to gain weight better when they're
Mm.
together. So I always tell people to start with steers, 100%. You can beef one out for your family and you can sell the other one and make up the cost for maybe the cost of buying them in the first place. So it's always a money thing for me. How can I make sure that this investment is going to pay for itself? And obviously, if you're producing food for yourself, that's the best investment ever. But if she could cover the costs of what they
Absolutely.
cost you with the second one, why not?
So you're saying buy two steers and
Mhm.
then find someone who's willing to sell both, you think,
Yeah.
if they have
Yeah.
two?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were going to do direct to consumer beef.
Ooh,
That was like our goal. And then we had a little bit of a drought that happened here, which we had all the time in North Dakota. So we were like, why is Tennessee giving us drought?
yeah. Right.
But we decided that we just did not have the capacity to keep these steers and feed them out to be ready for next year for people to purchase from us. So we decided to offer them to our local community, to other homesteads and small farms that maybe were wanting to start. And we got to mentor them through the process. But we told them that if you do not have another cow on your property, it's either take two or not. And I said, this is the way I would do it. If I was going to, I would sell the second one, to what I just said. And there's not a single person that did not take two. And I love it because they were able to pay for the processing. They were able to pay for just the cost of them also.
Oh, great.
And again, my favorite part was the mentoring. We got to help people walk through this. Like if they're like, hey, I see this going on. What does this mean? Can you help me? I don't understand or whatever. That to me was the best part.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Okay, so what is your preferred fencing? If a family was just considering bringing home their two first steer, what fencing is preferred?
So we always tell people that if you live on a highway or a road that is fairly busy, having some sort of permanent fencing that is a barrier is needed. We don't use that here because we have barriers of just our topography is like a hole. It's like a bowl down here. And so we have natural barriers. But I always tell people that if you're next to a busy road, make sure that you have some permanent fencing. But I love the electric fencing with the reels. We move our cows every single day, and it is so easy to do with those. We have the only permanent fencing we have is next to the corrals, and that's if we bring something home, we put them in there. It has 5 strands of barbed wire so that we can get them used to us. We can get them calmed down, and then we'll put in a training electric wire in there, and have the pen so they get used to it that way. I will say that if you are bringing a steer home, whatever it is, I highly recommend that they have at least 4 panels that you can go get at Tractor Supply so that you can put them in a hard fence first,
Yeah.
just for them to get used to you. And then you can work on getting them out and moved around in the pasture. But it's always nice to have something solid that you can put them in for whatever reason comes up.
And is there a certain breed that you would recommend
Breed of cows.
of
Is that what you
cows?
said?
Yeah,
Okay.
here.
Ben and I are very big on not specifically saying you should go get this breed because there's no better salesman than the person who's pitching the breed that they
They're selling.
that they sell. And so since we've been around a cattle a long time, we're like, we're never going to do that. There's good points and bad points about every breed out there. What we like to teach people is to pick on observational indicators. We want to tell people like this is what you're looking for within a cow, let's say. And so when you go look at whatever breeds you want, you're going to know what is like high fertility. You're going to know what to look for with their feet. You're going to know what to look for with the slope of their rump. Like those are the things that we like to teach people instead of breed specific. With that said, I will say that on small farms and homesteads, I think that dual purpose cattle are the way to go. I love my Jersey girls, and I know you have Jerseys too. But anything that is, I want to be as sufficient as possible within my system and within the context that I am running these animals in. And modern dairy girls are just not going to thrive on the grass that is in a lot of our pastures. And so getting a dual purpose cow that you can still milk and raise a really nice sized beef for your family. We eat a lot of beef. We couldn't do a Dexter. Like there's no way we'd have to process like 3 or 4 just to get through the beef that we use every year. So I think knowing how to select the cattle, but then also looking more towards a dual purpose cow so you can have that beef and milk at the same time.
Okay. And so that's why you are doing the red pole and the Jersey.
Yeah. And the only reason, so when we move, we're not taking our 2 full jerseys with us. We are taking our painted jersey that I got from Angela, because she has her frame. She's a little shorter. She's a lot stockier. And her mama did really well with low inputs to no inputs. And her dad was a Reverence Farm bull. So should have some decent enough grass-based genetics. So we're hoping that she'll require little to no inputs. We'll see. I mean, we're the first we'll feed you if we need to, but she's coming with us because she fits a model better than what our high production jerseys do.
Oh, fantastic. You said that you and Ben teach this to other people around. So where can one come to learn more about where your classes are?
Yeah, so we do it in person, but our last one for this year is coming up February 22nd and 23rd. It's Saturday and Sunday. So our last in person because we don't know when we're moving and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to plan too far ahead. But that one, we still have a few spots open. And then we actually move stuff online. So that 2-person really intensive foundational workshop that we hosted, we put it into a course. So it's accessible for people. And that just launched. It's called the Foundations of Cattle Husbandry, like keeping both beef and cattle well. And so we're really excited about that. So they can find that on our website, which is just thehavenfarmstead.com.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm so glad that you have that available for people who are interested in
Yeah.
learning both about beef and dairy cattle and how to take care of them well. Okay, I will just round it out because I know you're going to be talking a lot about cheese. And will you have another in-person cheese class coming up soon?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So, last year I traveled back to North Dakota. A couple of the gals out there that started keeping milk cows asked me if I would ever do that. And I'm like, well, will you help me like organize it? Like I need help. So I traveled there and we did it and it was so good. It was like 7 hours. It was really an amazing class. So I've started to do that all over the country, which is just wild to me. And so the next place that I'm at is in Indiana, in northern Indiana. That's coming in the beginning of March. So you can find all that on the website. Then the next weekend, I'm headed to Kansas to teach the same cheese workshop. And then I'll come back, take a weekend off. And then the next weekend will be the last cheese class at our farm here at the Haven Farmstead on March 28th.
March 28th. Okay, I'm going to try to
Yes.
see if I can make that one myself. Save me a spot.
Your spot is always saved. So there's just one with your name on it. And you can stay with us if you want to.
Oh, what fantastic. That is so exciting to hear that you're traveling all around the country and showing people how to make cheese with their dairy. In full disclosure, we have now 4 jerseys. I was on our way to downsize. We got it down to 1, and then we had to save 2 from a farm that was closing down in Southwest Virginia. And so here we are. 4, we're going to have to make a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
But we don't drink that much milk.
I don't either.
But I have yogurt and
Mhm.
we do a 24-hour long ferment of yogurt. Obviously, we love butter. We've got a nice, good stash of butter. Little ones love ice cream. We've made mozzarella. We've made paneer, but I've been intimidated to make the hard cheese. So I'm really looking forward to mastering that because I heard that we can use up to 6 to 7 gallons of milk to make it.
Oh, yeah. My biggest batch that I've done is seven
Okay.
gallons. And that's just because you have to have a pot big enough. Like I have an 8-gallon pot, but 7 gallons is like all the way to the top. So
Yeah.
I think it's really heavy. No, it's such a good use of it. And I think what you said is what everybody feels. They're really intimidated by it. But I also think like it's actually so easy. So that's my like whole thing. Everything that we do, everything that we teach is how can I simplify this for people to make it number one consumable so that they understand it, but also that they're like, oh, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And you would do so excellent making cheese. Like you should just probably just start. You don't need anybody to tell you, just start.
Well, we stopped drinking wine, so we do have a wine cabinet that we're not using
There you
anymore,
go.
and I heard that would do really well. And I
So
didn't know
that's
that.
it. That's what I use. So
Okay, so what is your favorite cheese? What's the one, or maybe 2?
yeah, so I have fallen in love with dill Havarti because for a lot of reasons. I just love the taste of it. But it's also like the quickest. I can eat it in 2 to 3 weeks. And that feels like really easy and accessible. But the other, like, well, not the other day because it's cheddar and it takes a while. I did make a cheddar that was Anaheim and and habaneros in it. And that cheese was so smooth, but also like the cheddar flavor, like, and it had aged for 3 months. And that I think topped even dill Havarti, and that had been my favorite.
So are you going to have any of these to sample in your March class?
I don't know. So when we've done the previous ones here at the farm, like I opened my cheese fridge and I cut every single cheese that was ready and we sampled so many. Well, both my cows are dried off right now. And one of them, I had to dry her off unexpectedly because she stepped on her teat for the second time. And so I was going to be milking her all the way till the next one calves, which is the beginning of March. And now I'm like, okay, well, we don't have very much cheese left, so let's see what happens. But I think I'll make sure that I save some of that cheddar. that can make it.
Have you perfected making cream cheese yet? Because I've made the cream cheese. I've got the consistency down. I'm adding a ton of butter and cream to it. So the consistency is good, but the taste is not. And I wonder if it's because I'm just used to eating store-bought cream cheese, and this is how cream cheese is supposed to taste, but it's missing a certain level of sweetness.
Yeah. So I have really struggled with cream cheese, and I think that everybody does. There's one recipe that I haven't tried, it's not mine, that looks really hopeful, that is a lot closer to like what we think, Philadelphia cream cheese.
Right.
You know, like that's kind of the cream cheese for everybody. I will tell you that I cheat 100% with
Okay.
my cream cheese, and it's not. It's yogurts that I strain extra long,
Yeah.
and that's what had done it for me, and I make all my cheesecakes with that now, and
Okay.
I'm not even trying to perfect the other.
Well,
At this point, it's like what I'm done with you.
yeah, I've had Amber's yogurt
Mhm.
cheesecake, and I forget which event we were at, but we were in Airbnb, and I kid you not, I think I was in the corner, not talking to anybody and just eating.
Wait, that's why some of us didn't get the cheesecake?
Yeah, probably. It was so good. She said it was yogurt just strained for a long period of time, and then she just baked it.
I just have an extra, like, strainer that I can put a cover on because I strain all of my yogurt after I ferment it for 24 hours just on the counter. I don't put it in the fridge to strain it. Well, it technically continues to ferment for that extra 6 hours or
Right.
whatever I'm hanging it. But this one, I'll stick in the fridge, so it goes in the fridge for a full day at least
Okay.
to get more of the weight off.
Thank you so much, Janelle. I'm so excited. I'm going to come and visit your homestead and learn everything and see everything in March. So we're going to make sure we get some time together.
Yes, please.
And then we're going to see each other in May at the Prairie Roots Homesteading Summit. But for anybody who wants to learn more about you now, where would you recommend them to come check out more information?
Yeah, I think always first to social media, just because that kind of gives you a glimpse, at least in our stories, of who we are as people. So on Instagram, my handle is Janelle Lynn Anderson. And then over on Facebook, it's just Janelle Anderson. And then after that, our website is thehavenfarmstead.com.
I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And if you haven't followed Janelle, you absolutely should. Her content on Instagram is something that I look forward to seeing every day, waking up with you with your cup of coffee in the couch. But not only that, you're a wealth of information. So thank you so much for your time today, Janelle, to share with us your story and where you're going. And we are cheering you on. So until next time, stay healthy.